All right, everybody. Hit like and subscribe if you want me to keep doing this stuff. Definitely make comments, helps the algorithms. And let me know what you think. And so this is going to be a recap real quick of kind of what my favorite knives of 2022 were. Now, that doesn't mean some of these knives might not be actual 2022 models. They're going to be knives that I got and reviewed and purchased and played with and have been carrying and using in 2022. A lot of them will be from that year, but some will not be, but that's okay. Had a lot of knives in the last year, so let's run through some of them. So I've got it kind of broken into different categories. So we're going to start with OTFs. So I've had Guardian Tactical, I've had Hogue, I've had Vespa, I have had Heretic knives. Like I had a bunch of OTFs over the years, and Microtech's always the kind of the go-to. They're the brand that everybody wants. They sort of set the bar for that category. And I love Microtech. Microtech's an awesome company. They make awesome products. As you know, I'm not a fan of the cheese grater thumb thing, because if you do like to fidget a lot, it's one thing if you're just opening it once or twice to open a box, it's one thing. But that thing is super sharp. And so if you do like to sit there and fidget, you are going to chew the shit out of your thumb. It's just, in my opinion, it's needlessly abrasive as an EDC. I guess if it's, your hand is wet, you got blood on your hands, or you got gloves on, I don't know, whatever. But I find that these other ones, that I've used over the years work just as well without actually causing you pain after a while. In any case, so what stands out in that category? I mean, it hasn't been a whole lot new in it. Microtech's got a bunch of different models. I think they did come out with a new model this year, but I wasn't able to get one. But there's like a gazillion blade color combinations, steels, colors, and things, and but there's not a whole lot. So in this category, I'm going to give it to these guys, Axial Gear. They are a U.S. made company, and they're taking it right to Microtech. This is an S35 VN blade, I believe. You can get it in 20. Oh no, this is 20 CV. So this is like a real nice premium steel. It's machined aluminum. It's Microtech-ish in a way. I mean, it's an OTF, so they have to work the same mechanically. So design-wise, they're going to be around the same type of form factor. It doesn't have the glass breaker, but frankly, I've never really had a use for one of those anyway. And I'm fine with this. So without having that, I find that if you do your reverse grip, you don't have that thing poking into your thumb. But what I like about it is it's a very similar construction, made here in the U.S. with U.S. source materials. It's made to the similar, manufacturing standards and tolerances, and the function and reliability seems to be right there with a Microtech. Yet $345, and I think I paid at the time $189. Now these have gone up to like $235 or something, but you're still looking at least $100 savings over the Microtech, while having a comparable U.S. made knife with a comparable U.S. warranty. So very cool design. It's nice and lightweight. This one, I mean, I don't know. I have to look up the specs. In my hand, they feel the same. This one almost feels lighter, but I think that's just because this one is a little more compact, so the weight is kind of concentrated into a slightly smaller piece. But yeah, I mean, in fact, this one tends to be a little thinner in my hand. I kind of like the way this fits because it's just a little bit broader this way, even though it's actually slightly thinner this way. It just tends to want to twist, and it resists twisting in your hand as much. The more you get to wide and short, where it's more round, the more it wants to kind of twist if it's in your grip, and you have to really kind of pinch your hands if you got big hands. But as a U.S. made knife, this thing has been excellent. Really nice steel, good blade, good grinds. Perfect, flawless execution. So I'm going to give it to the Axial Gear. This is the Shift. And they got a bunch of different color combinations. You can choose the color of the hardware, and they got different blade styles and blade steel choices. Really cool company. They're definitely an up-and-comer. So we're going to give it to Axial Gear for the OTF category. We'll go on to slip joints. So, a lot of good slip joints out there. I picked up one of these this year. That's my second Great Eastern Cutlery. And this is a superb American handcrafted, $180 knife. Love it. But honestly, for most people, these are hard to get because the collectors buy them up like Beanie Babies, and then you have a knife like that and you're afraid to use it and scratch it. Some people are, just because they're collector items. So in that category, as much as this is great, I wouldn't put that as one of my knives of the year. I mean, I'm just putting it out here for comparisons. But the one in the slip joints that really impressed me most is this Rough Rider. I've had a bunch of their Barlows and a bunch of Rough Rider Reserves, Bokers. I've had a whole bunch of slip joints this year. But the one that actually impressed me the most is this one. It's not even a Rough Rider Reserve. It's a regular Rough Rider using VG10 steel, nice metal bolsters, beautiful micarta, really nice, snappy action in a nice Wharncliffe with a great blade design, great grinds, really sharp, just big enough to fill the hand. This is $30 for VG10 and micarta. Outstanding value. What I like about it is that with a lot of slip joints, if you get a wiggly, wobbly blade, unless you're really a bladesmith and you want to pound that and tighten up that rivet and then repolish it and hope that you didn't mess anything up, adjustable pivot. I mean, seriously, for $30, how can you not have one of these? This is the Rough Rider RR2285. It's like the Alpha or something like that, some new line they're coming out with. It's incredible value. So for bargain slip joints, or just for all slip joints, if you just want a nice slip joint knife, maybe you don't want to spend $300 or for a Pina or $200 almost for a Great Eastern Cutlery, if you can find the damn things, give Rough Rider a look, man, because that is just an outstanding little traditional style pocket knife. I mean, you can hear that action. Super snappy, great spring. There's no blade wrap. It's not smacking into anything in there, so it's not dinging the blade the way my more expensive Bokers and case knives did. But for $30, man, just huge, huge value. So we're going to put that in the running for best knife, in my opinion, of the ones I've gotten, as far as that goes for the slip joints. And then I'm going to give this one to the best category for, and there's two of them in this category, for the best value fancy knife. And this just goes to outstanding fit and finish and design and machining in a price point that is just blows my mind. So the first one is the Civivi Cetos. This thing is a freaking amazing knife. It's a frame lock. It's got really nice burlap micarta on one side, beautiful machine pivot. Look at the machining on that blade. The fuller, the grind up here on top, the jimping, the deep carry pocket clip. This is just an outstanding knife. And these are around $70. It's a flipper design. It's got a nice liner lock. Frame lock. It's ergonomic. It fills your hand. You get that little bit of a finger stop with that jimping, but it's not abrasive. It doesn't hook too far back into you. It's very rounded on the point. Sometimes they get those wrong. They have that flipper come to a damn point, and then depending on the size of your knuckle and how you hold it, that point can push right into that knuckle. And then you're having to adjust your grip to get your finger away from that if you're putting any kind of force on it. That is a good size pocket knife that is just beautiful, beautiful, sweet action. And like I said, the materials, these are hard knives to beat for the money. You got decent Sandvik steel, flawless execution. Everything's perfectly chamfered and radiused, and it's a beautiful knife. And then there's this thing, which takes this up to an insane level. And I've got another one from these guys coming that's going to have a Damascus blade and a different blade style. We'll review that later this week. This is the Citivian, and this thing is just insane. This is the 995 with M390 titanium, machined titanium pocket clip, carbon fiber, ceramic ball bearings. Absolutely insane execution. Perfect blade centering. Nice lockup. It's just, I don't know how they do this. And this brand has had other reviewers have sent their stuff off to test the steel and make sure that it's legit, and it is. That is, for an $80 knife, it's about $10-15 more than this. I don't know how they're doing it. It's got to be just, they don't have a whole lot of workers. It's China. They're not paying them that much, and it's mainly just CNC machines. And then they just pay some workers to put the damn things together. But as long as the quality control's there, and as long as they're using the right materials and stuff, there's no flaws in this damn thing. There's no anything. Like, that is just a really wicked knife. $80 for those materials. If this was made in the US, you're looking at 200 plus for those materials. It's insane. Wicked, wicked deal. And then we'll go down into the other knives that have impressed me a lot. Just for the value, we're looking at, I don't know, this was like 30 something dollars. So this will be the 40 and under category, right? So this was like 30 something dollars. It's the QSC Penguin with D2 steel, nice Warncliffe or sheep's foot liner lock with chipped carbon fiber, deep carry pocket clip. And you can say, oh, well, they're not, the screws there aren't flush, whatever. It's $37, dude, on Amazon. This is just a great pocket knife that's built tough. It's strong, it's thick, it doesn't flex a lot, it's decent materials. It's just awesome. Now that one is on phosphor bronze washers. And then the other one that impressed me a lot was the SRM 9201. I keep going, every time I go over to Old Town Cutlery, I sit there playing with their new tagged out. And honestly, if it didn't have the orange handle, I might just buy one, even though I already have this, because it's just a cool knife. It's a bug out, but for adults, it's a man-sized bug out, essentially, with a clip point. It's a hunting knife, but it's incredibly light, smooth action. This was $29. Now the price may have gone up a couple bucks since I bought it, but this is a $30 knife. It's D2 steel. It's got a great edge. It's got a beautiful blade design, really nice grinds. The action is just like butter. It's beautiful, uses the patent is expired on the Benchmade Axis lock. So you got multiple deployments. You can roll it, which is what I just typically do. You can flick it if you open the lock. If you grip it just right. This one's hard because my finger slides out because of that elongated. So if you're a fan of the Spidey flick, this one doesn't work as well. If you catch it just right, you can do it. But for me, if I have to do it 3 times to get it right, I'm just going to open the knife, cut, and do that. Or just open it, cut the box, and close it. That to me is faster, and it's foolproof, and I'm not having to adjust my grip and do all that stuff. So I know some of you guys like the Spidey flick. Some knives are a little bit more conducive to that. It can be done with this one. It's just that hole's not as good for it as like a Spyderco or some other blades. So I would stick with the thumb roll or just flick it with the lock. But for $30, man, look at that thing. That is just a really, really cool knife. Is it better than the Benchmade? Well, no. The Benchmade's going to have better steel, and I don't know, maybe it'll hold up better over time. But the Benchmade is also, if this is 30, those are going for one. All right, so it's 6 times as much. I can buy 6 of these. I can buy this and this and this for the price of the one Benchmade. So if you're really a fan of Benchmade, go buy it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Benchmade. It's just I keep playing with it side by side with this, and I'm like, okay, it's like 3/4 of an ounce lighter. Maybe it's an ounce lighter. It's a little bit lighter. It's a little tiny bit thinner, but this feels stronger. This has drilled out steel liners. It's got the backspace here, so it doesn't pinch. It doesn't flex as much by having that spacer in there. It supports the scales better. To me, this feels like a heavier duty knife. And at the expense of, okay, you're going to have an extra ounce of weight. And then the next category, so let's start closing these and moving these off. So we got our Cetos, the Sativian. Stay tuned for the Sativian I have coming tomorrow. You think this is fancy looking? Just wait. QSP Penguin, great. Now there is a new one coming out, an XL. I'm going to probably pick up one of those because that'll fit my hand a little better. So we come back to, like, for my EDCs are your Benchmade bug out. So this year I've been totally impressed with these other two. These aren't going to be a surprise to anybody. This one I think has gotten EDC of the year from a bunch of review sites and stuff. But you got your Benchmade bug out, right? S30V in this one. It's got the olive drab Grivery stonewash. I guess it's not a stonewash. That's some kind of a finish. This is one of the best EDC knives ever made. It's so thin. It's so light. It's great materials. It's got a great blade for the size and thinness of this. Look at the size of that blade. I mean, you got a nice 3-inch cutting edge. It's 3 1/4 inch overall. This is a fantastic EDC. The action is just, look at that. And that's without having any blade play in there. That's nicely broken in. But let's say you don't want to spend $145. or more, depending. I mean, they start at around 140. If you want to go into some of the other metals and combinations and different scales, you're talking more. I've seen some of them going for over 200 for their deluxe models with titanium scales. Let's say you just don't want to spend that much. Would you spend $95 on a Delica? Amazing, very, very good knife. VG10, and again, this one, lockbacks have so much friction here because that spring is pressing against the back. Sometimes you can Spidey flick them, but with the lighter blades, I've noticed they don't want to do it as much. You can do it, but for me, boom, open every time. Put your finger up towards the front, so when you do this, you hit that stop. Don't do it down here because I have cut myself when that blade makes contact, but it is simple one-hand opening. But I'll say, you know, it's not as good one-hand opening as this because it opens faster and it closes faster. Instant open. Here you got multiple steps. You can open it real quick. If you flick it with your thumb, you can fire it open. But here it's kind of like a one step and then do that. If you want to do it one-handed, there's really no other way unless you put it against a tabletop. So there's more steps involved, even though it's fairly convenient, but I wouldn't put it as far as simplicity and speed of opening and closing. You know, you're going to be much happier with this, but you can save $50. Well, what if you want to save $50 from that? You want to come in around $90 cheaper than that. CJRB Pyrite. Unbelievable action. Just as good as the Benchmade. It's on ceramic ball bearings, thumb studs. I guess if you get your... my problem is always with the small knives is when you do the Spidey flick, my finger wants to go over that. So you have to make sure your finger's out of the way on this one. For me, it's faster to just do that than to sit here and try lining up my finger. And okay, for this knife, I got to hold it this way. Whatever. This works. You can do it if you want. If this is going to be your primary EDC, then after a while, you'll know how to hold this so that you can flick it. It's because of thumb studs. The thumb studs stick out past the handle. So if your finger is anywhere near here, your thumb stud is going to make contact and it's going to slow the blade down. And that's what's happening. So you have to keep your finger completely out of the way and then it flicks right open. I'm just going to use the thumb and then close it like that. This closes and opens every bit as fast as this. And honestly, I'm carrying the Pyrite more than I'm carrying the Benchmade. Not because there's anything wrong with the Benchmade. This one just, I don't know, it feels a little bit more fidget friendly. And I've got the finger choil. I can choke up on it. I've got the jimping up here. You do have jimping. No, you don't. You got jimping back here, which is kind of useless. And you can't really choke up. So here, it's like you're pretty much holding it like this or you're holding back. Ergonomically, for getting in and doing finer cuts, that gives me a little bit more control, puts me a little closer to that tip. I've got a nice, generous little finger choil, and the jimping is on the blade, not back here on the handle. I think they missed the boat on that. Putting the jimping here doesn't help me choke up on it. I would want it up here, right? So that's my one, I think, a design flaw with that. But as far as your thin, super light, everyday carries, this is going to be your, I think these are the go-to. If you just want a small EDC that flies open, flies shut, I'm going with the Pyrite or the Benchmade. And if you don't mind a lockback and you don't mind that little extra step, Delica. These are all in the same relative size, weight, but you got your, better part of $150. You get your better part of $100. You got your $54 or whatever that one was. And then the last little honorable mention, at least for me, again, it's been out for a while, is this. The little tiniest locking knife that is single, one hand opening, one hand closing, decent steel, weighs nothing. I want to say this is like 1.3 ounces or 1.2. It's lighter than the Bug Out. But if you needed a knife that needed to hide somewhere, you needed something. Maybe you're not supposed to be carrying a knife, but you're like, I'm carrying a freaking knife. But you need something that is actually tough enough to get the job done, that even though that is small, I got big. I mean, look at how big my hand is compared to that. Yet look at when you use that finger choil and that last finger curls over it, I can use this. I don't know how they did this. It's a marvel of little engineering and design, but you've got a wicked, sharp, pointy little blade. It's not going to be the thickest, most robust blade. I wouldn't be prying with it. But if you needed to open boxes or you were in an emergency situation and you needed something, and you needed a reliable little blade that you could just tuck away anywhere and it would go pretty much undetected other than, a metal detector, this is your guy. Dragonfly 2, man. That is just wicked. And you know what knife I forgot to grab I should have put out here was the best for the multi-tools? Actually, you know what? Being that I no longer have an iPhone, I'm actually on a Samsung again, I can pause a video in the middle of recording, and then I can come back like nothing happened, which you can't do on an iPhone. You got to stop recording, or I got to record me running into the other room to get the knife, come back, and then I got to edit it all out in post or merge multiple video files together. So Apple, get with the damn program. So I actually forgot the other category. So I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to be right back. And we're back without having to edit videos. So the last category here, and I would say out of these three, so if I was going to pull out which ones I think are the nicest for their category, get rid of the Microtech, going with the Axial shift. I think out of these two, I'm going to go with this one. It's cheaper, and it's basically a Benchmade tagged out. Out of my little categories here, I think the best of both worlds is the Pyrite. It's the cheapest, and it's faster than either of those, and the steel's decent. Great Eastern Cutlery, great, but most people that buy those don't carry them, so we're going to leave out the Rough Ryder. And of these two, I got to go with the Sativian. It's just M390 versus Sandvik, and it's got titanium and carbon fiber, and it's a machine clip versus a stamped one, so we're going to put that one out. And okay, so what is our last category? It's the multi-tool. It's the Swiss Army style knives. And up until now, this one's been kind of my favorite, even though it had limitations. Didn't have a pocket clip, but it was minimalist, had the tools that I needed, including the Phillips, which I use all the time. It did have a locking blade. The one concession was no pocket clip, and it's not one-hand closing or opening, right? So here's the one that beats it, the Rookie. This is the LD21, I think. LD21B. Has the pocket clip. It's better Sandvik steel. It is one-hand opening and one-hand closing. And I swapped out the corkscrew and installed a Rookie, Phillips screwdriver, which you really can't here. You got to take these scales off, and you always run the risk of breaking them. Then you got to drill out rivets. Then you got to have new rivets to put in and press them together right and cut them down and put on new scales. You just take out the screws and go buy another Rookie that's got the tools you want, which now I have a Rookie with a bunch of spare tools on it. If I ever break anything or want to swap anything out. And I was able to go and make this into what I want. You got a glass breaker, you still got tweezers, although no toothpick, but the toothpicks never actually worked, because unless you got a Stacey Abrams gap tooth in the front that you could drive a school bus through, that big chunky piece of plastic doesn't really work as a toothpick anyway. I mean, look at the size of these things. You need a pretty big gap tooth to get in between and actually, do anything. So, but it does have the tweezers, and the tweezers are much bigger and much better than the dinky little Victorinox. I mean, look at that. These are seriously thick. These are kind of a little thin and flimsy. And so this knife now, it does weigh a bit more, not going to lie. But that's because it's got steel liners, those are steel liners too. Some of them are aluminum. I think the outer ones are aluminum and the middle one is steel, but that's because that's also part of the locking mechanism. But it weighs a little more, but you got a deep carry pocket clip. You can take it apart. You can adjust the pivots to get the amount of blade play that you want to make it easy to open and close. And if you snap this or you messed up the ends, you could go buy another screwdriver, pull out this screw, and the top screw, and this all comes apart, and you lift off the thing and put the new one in and then put the screws back in. So this is a serviceable knife that has all the tools that I want, right? You got your big locking blade with a spear point. It's really sharp, good Sandvik steel. You've got your can opener with the screwdriver. You got a seat belt cutter or zip tie cutter, something that you can cut things without risking poking holes in them. And then you got your Phillips. You got a glass breaker. I don't think I'd ever use a glass breaker, but hey, it's there, whatever. And it doesn't get in the way, and it's not as uncomfortable as using this giant thing if you were in a reverse grip. That sticks out so much more. This one just kind of, not so bad. So those are my favorite knives for this year. This is SRM 920, best knife under $30. Just it's amazing. My OTF, It's going to be the new Axial gear. They're making great stuff right here in America. They're a real rival to Microtech at about 2/3 of the price. We've got Rookie making a better Swiss Army knife than Swiss Army. The Pyrite from CJRB, best rival I've found to the Benchmade Bug Out. Best alternative in my book. Best new slip joint. It almost looks like a peanut. I would say it's almost made, I would say it's maybe made in the same factory, maybe different steels and stuff. But when you look at the construction, man, this thing is for $30 freaking for VG10 and micarta. It's outstanding. This madman, the Sativian 995, M390, titanium, ball bearings, beautiful, sweet action. I mean, look at that. Machined, let's get it past the detent. I mean, machined pocket clip. Lanyard, hidden, no holes, just drilled through the whole damn knife. If you want it, you can insert it there. It's hidden. Just, it's crazy. And I would make this the runner-up, the Cetos. But that's the better knife. Sweeter action, better materials. Those are my best picks for 2022. Out of all the things that I've bought and played with and had and stuff like that, you know, we've got some runners up here, but these are the ones I'd pick, man. These are just outstanding knives for every occasion. So anyway, we'll talk to y'all later, and we'll see what 2023 brings us.